everyone, praise the Lord, praise Jesus. I'm so happy I'm back. Yes, welcome back to my channel, Maura, and this is bakire'smission. We talk about things to do with mental wellness, things like marriage, dating, forgiveness, loss, healing, depression, anxiety, wellness, name it, anything that has to do with mental wellness, and that is literally almost everything. So okay, thanks for subscribing. First of all, thank you for sharing the link, thank you for the support you're rendering to this channel. Yes, previously we talked about the relationship between postpartum depression and grief, and that did raise a lot of questions. Yes, and if you haven't watched that video, check the description below and you'll find the video direct. So today I just want to give you, because the questions were many: what caused it, how did the baby die, what led to that, was it doctor's negligence, did you take the folic acid, did you feed right, did you take alcohol, are you and your husband a real match? Very many questions, but I'll just give you a summary of the story of how it happened, and I'm hoping it will answer some of your questions. So today we are just talking, I'm just sharing the sad story. I just hope and pray that I'll remain strong, and yes. So I got to know I was pregnant in September 2020. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, September 2020. And yes, I started my folic acid immediately. Actually, that very day, and I got to know I was pregnant, even if I went for the checkup, because I went for the checkup 3 days later, like for the first antenatal visit. But I did start taking folic, and my gyna was so happy about it. Like when I told her I started my folic and everything, she was, yes. So I did start it right away, and everything was okay. We went for all the checkups. I never missed any checkups. I fed right. That was one of the questions: did you actually feed right? I'm not a fan of greens, for example, but I did have to eat them for the baby. I ate fruits, I hydrated, I took the folic acid, I exercised, I did what I was supposed to do, and I did as recommended by the doctor. And yes, I had no complications. We did the scans and everything was just fine. The scans were alright from the beginning. We did the one in the first trimester, and we were told the baby was perfectly fine. The second trimester, the same thing. The baby was perfectly fine, according to what they said. And the third trimester, I remember I started getting pain in the pelvic area. It was painful, but when we went to hospital, the gynecologist said, "No, you're fine, you're just fine, you just need some more calcium, because it's the baby's weight that is causing a lot of weight in that pelvic area, so there is nothing to worry about. Just continue taking your folic acid, continue hydrating and feeding right and exercising, everything is okay." Yes, so when we were almost reaching the EDD, the expected delivery date, we went to hospital for our last, like they called it, antenatal visit. And when they checked, they told us to actually go get our things necessary for the hospital because we had to deliver our baby in just about 1 day or 2 days because the baby was big, not so big, but yes, she was big, just for kgs. She was big, but that was not the main issue. The issue was I had my firstborn in 2019 and this was 2021. So she actually made 2 years in April and I gave birth to the second born in May. So according to the doctors, the scar was still fresh, and given the fact that this baby was big, they couldn't take the risk of, letting me have a vaginal birth. They had to carry out a cesarean section to avoid any risks. So we went back, I and my husband, and we picked the things, took our firstborn to my mother's home so that we have nothing to worry about back home. And yes, we went to hospital. We did the scan that very evening. And the nurse said, okay, the person, I don't know that's real name, the person that carried out the scan said, the baby is perfectly fine. That was the word actually. This is the baby is okay, or the baby is this, or the baby is perfectly fine, she's so healthy, yes, and that was it. So they had to prepare me for the next morning because the cesarean section was supposed to be carried out the next morning, and that's what happened. Just woke up, took a shower, prayed, I was a bit, of course, anxious and and excited at the same time. I, just like, I'm about to have a baby. And I already know what to expect, kind of, because I had my first child through cesarean. It was a whole different thing. I wanted vaginal birth, but it just couldn't happen. So I kind of knew something about cesarean. I knew they're not going to put catheter and then this, that. Since it was actually even the same hospital that I had gone back to. So they take me off to the theater, and it's the expected thing. They ask the normal questions, this, that. And yes, they grill me, they put me on the theater bed, and they start operating on me. And I'm praying, I'm excited, I'm imagining, so how is my baby going to look like? And I started remembering, like when I started having the memory of when I had my first baby, and I had her, like they got her out, they showed her to me, like this is your baby. So I kept on playing that until I felt like, okay, so I waited for this one, and I thought it was going to be the same thing. I already knew the sex, I already knew everything, so I just envisioned everything going as beautiful and what I didn't tell you was that very day I was graduating, so I was excited. We were celebrating 2 things at the same time, and the next day was my daddy's birthday, so it was an exciting mood, Everybody was like, oh my god, you're giving birth on your graduation day, like the excitement was. So they get the baby out, and the moment they removed the baby, it's always a huge team, and there is this, I think, a pediatrician or something, the person in charge of receiving the baby and everything. The moment the baby came out and cried, he said, something is wrong. And I remember, what is wrong? In my mind, I didn't ask, but I was like, what is wrong? And then the moment he said it, even before I saw the baby, I could tell, there was a lot of that alarming silence. At first they were talking and chatting and all that, and then there was this silence in the theater, and everybody started surrounding me, and everybody seemed shocked. The people that were working on me started looking at me with fear, and I was like, okay, what is wrong? And he receives the baby and shows the baby to me. Like, this is how the baby looks like. So what they were worried about was the baby had a cleft palate, so the lip had not connected well. Like, it needed surgery to be connected, and that is okay. That is normal, okay? That just requires 1 or 2 or 3 surgeries, and the baby is back to normal, because everything else was okay. It was just the lip, the upper lip, that had not connected so well. So the only thing I asked was, I remember asking, I looked at the baby, she was so beautiful, she had a lot of hair, she was big. I couldn't imagine, because my firstborn was small, not so small, like overwhelmingly small, but this baby was big. I always wanted a huge baby. It was so huge, she was beautiful, and the one question I asked him was, is she going to be able to breathe or feed? Because all I looked at was this, and I was like, yeah, we shall teach you how to feed her, and it will be okay. Then I just cooled, just like, okay. When he told me she's going to be able to breathe and feed, that was all I wanted to hear. So they start working on her, but then something in me told me something was wrong. Like, just like that, he said something is wrong. I was on the theater bed praying, and when you're about to receive your child, you're excited, you're counseling God, omen upon this child, you're claiming blessings and all. And then now the voice that was praying and praising the Lord switched from that to, there is something wrong with the baby, there is something wrong with the baby, there is something wrong with the baby. But I just asked God. I remember telling God, please give me the grace. That's all I asked for. God, please give me the grace. Please give me the grace. But I still couldn't stop crying. So they worked on me, and they're on the baby. I could see them connecting this and that, putting, I think, oxygen or something. But I just couldn't help it. So they finish doing whatever they have to do and wheel me out of the theater and take me to the waiting room, to the recovery room, but all I could hear was the baby crying. Like, she cried so much. She was in so much pain, too much pain. So they just, I remember when I had my first baby, I was in that very recovery room, but I was there for quite long. But this time round, I just felt, I didn't even black out or anything. I remember telling them after about, I think, 20 minutes, I can't remember that time. My head was already all over the place. I could hear my baby crying, and then the nurses were looking at me with this eye of, oh, sorry. I didn't want that. So I just kept calling them. I told them, nurse, all I want is to see my mother. I want to go to see my mother. Because they had told me I can't be with the baby right now. They need to carry out some tests. They need to take her to the NICU and all. So I had to, all I wanted was to be with my mother. I needed someone to be next to me and tell me things were going to be okay. So when I insisted, they had refused, but when I insisted, they just held me to the ward. And I remember when we got out, my sister was there and my mother, and my sister asked them where the baby was, and they just kept quiet. And in my head I was like, why are they not telling her? Is my baby okay? But they just wheeled me off to the ward and passed them until I was there, and I could see people panicking. Everyone was checking on me. Then I could feel something was wrong, but people started pouring in hospital, people started making calls. I remember my husband had a very important meeting, that's why he wasn't there at that moment, and he arrived and everyone seemed so worried. And then in a few, I remember them telling me we had to pay some money, they had to carry out a cardio something to check if her heart is okay. And in the next few minutes they come back and they say she actually has a hole on the heart. But they had been telling me everything was okay. Like all these scans they were doing, even the scan the previous day. I'm not saying it could have changed a thing about that, but they should have told me that, you know what, the baby you're carrying actually has a problem. To psychologically, like, maybe prepare me for what was coming my way. So, sorry. They tell me the baby actually has a hole in the heart. And I remember I cried, yes, but I asked, can it be worked on? I don't know where I was getting confidence, but I felt like, yes, if this is my child, you have to fight for this child, and all those things. Like, I was strong, and I thank God for that. I felt, I still look back and I'm like, okay, I was actually strong in that moment. So as they were still talking about that, like she's in the NICU and she's having a heart problem, then just about 5 to 10 minutes, my dad walks in and tells me, you see, he used our language, that is Rufumbira. See, I'll translate it. The child has a heart problem. He didn't use heart, actually, just like has a heart problem, and it is the hole is actually big, so it is difficult to deal with, and that's why she has decided, like she has decided to go. Like he brought it out in a way of she just had to go. Like, he tried to make it sweet and what, but it can never be sweet, He was just trying to, but I couldn't believe him. I told him that he just get out. What you're telling me is a lie. Just call my husband. I need him to tell. I know he won't lie to me. I want to hear it from him. My baby will be just fine. So, that's what happened. And my baby, Eden Zoe Muyanga, was normal. It's sad, I don't even have any pictures of her, because the pictures they took of her were of her body. Like she was already gone, she had already breathed her last. So literally the pictures that I have of the coffin, of the grave, yes, that's all I have, and a framed photo in her memory of a candle, because she was just a moment and a few hours in our sight, but she will forever be in our hearts. And it is because of that moment, that life that was short-lived, that this YouTube channel had to be formed. It is all about finding beauty in ashes, sharing and talking about things that affect our mental health, because I had, gone through things that affected my mental health, both positively and negatively, but this was definitely a blow, and it didn't leave my life the same. I hope I have answered some of your questions by telling you the story of what happened. And the question was, the main question was, so what do you suspect gwenga gwe otuula awo kikyolowooza ekyaleeta obuzibu? You, what do you suspect was the cause of this problem? Before I conceived, I was having an IUD. And the moment I removed it, I remember I removed it in late April, around 20th, yes, April, 20th August, and September I realized I was pregnant. So I think maybe there could have been something that had remained in there, and I hadn't detoxed or something. So yes, thank you for listening. I hope this mission, Bakire's mission, helps one or two people out there. It is enough. It is just enough. You are loved, and let us be each other's keeper. Let us be kind. You never know what the person you're next to is going through. People are carrying heavy hearts, so all you can be, or the best you can be, is being kind to one another. Thank you. Remember to subscribe and share the link. Thank you.